I let my sister stay with us after her apartment flooded. She slept in our guest room, ate our food, used our car. One night, I heard her on the phone whispering, "She's got no clue what's about to happen." A week later, I got a letter from our neighbor's lawyer. They were filing for joint custody of my son, claiming my home was unstable and unsafe. Turns out, my sister had been feeding them stories for weeks, in exchange for a place to live. I used to think family meant something. That no matter what happened, blood was thicker than water. That's how I was raised. You help family. You trust family. So when my younger sister Rachel called me in tears one night, saying her crappy apartment in Greeley had flooded from a broken pipe and she had nowhere to go, I didn't even hesitate. I told her to pack her stuff and come stay with us. We had a finished guest room downstairs with its own bathroom. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and private. She showed up the next morning with her life in 2 beat-up suitcases. She looked wrecked, hair a mess, clothes wrinkled, eyes puffy from crying. I hugged her and told her everything would be fine. I should have listened to the little voice in my head that warned me. Rachel always had a way of making trouble, even when we were kids. She was always the one sneaking out, lying to our parents, stealing small stuff, and pretending she found it. But I figured she was older now. I figured real life had knocked some sense into her. Wrong again. At first, it wasn't terrible. She cooked a couple of dinners, unloaded the dishwasher once in a while. She watched Dylan for an hour here and there when I had to run errands. Nothing major. But then little things started happening. Rachel started borrowing my car without asking. Not short trips either, hours. Once she didn't come back until midnight and didn't even text. She brushed it off, saying her phone died. I was pissed, but I let it slide. Family. She started eating everything in the house. I'd grocery shop on Saturday, and by Wednesday the fridge was half empty. Mark grumbled about it, but again, we brushed it off. Then there was the money. A couple charges showed up on my card that I didn't recognize. Fast food, gas stations, small stuff. When I asked her, she laughed and said, "Oops, must have grabbed the wrong card at the gas station." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to. The worst part, though, was the phone calls. Late at night, after Dylan was asleep and Mark was snoring beside me, I'd hear her voice from the guest room. Low, sneaky whispers. I couldn't make out most of it, just the occasional word here and there. Until one night, about 3 weeks after she moved in. I got up around midnight to grab a glass of water. As I passed the guest room, her door was cracked open. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, phone pressed tight to her ear. I caught one clear sentence, like a knife right to the gut. "She's got no clue what's about to happen." Her voice was gleeful. I froze. Every hair on my body stood up. Part of me wanted to fling the door open and scream at her, demand to know what the hell she was plotting. But another part, the smarter part, told me to wait, to watch. So I went back to bed, heart pounding, mind racing. I barely slept. A week later, it all exploded. Mark handed me the letter when he brought in the mail. Heavy white envelope, formal letterhead. A lawyer's office. I opened it without thinking, and then I just stood there, staring at the words. The Dawsons, our next-door neighbors, were filing a petition for joint custody of Dylan. They were claiming our home was unstable and unsafe, that Mark and I were unfit parents. They included a list of incidents that painted us as borderline abusive. Frequent loud arguments witnessed by neighbors, child left unattended for long periods, dangerous living conditions inside the home. There were even pictures. A pile of dirty laundry on the floor, a sink full of unwashed dishes. Dylan with a scraped knee from falling off his bike. I almost threw up right there on the kitchen floor. How the hell did they know these things? How did they even get inside my house to take pictures? And then it clicked. Rachel. I waited until she left that afternoon. She said she had a job interview, and then I tore her room apart. I felt sick doing it, but I had to know. I found them shoved deep in her suitcase, spiral notebooks full of notes. Every small thing she could twist into proof, she had written down. Dylan left alone in backyard for hours. He was outside playing while I cleaned the kitchen, maybe 20 minutes. Mother drinks wine during day. I had a single glass of Chardonnay on a Sunday afternoon barbecue. Father uses harsh language around child. Mark told Dylan to stop being a little brat when he was throwing a tantrum. All real moments twisted and poisoned into lies. There were pictures, too. Hundreds of them. Some I didn't even know she took. The kicker? I found a text thread on her old tablet she left charging in the kitchen. Rachel and Mrs. Dawson. Plotting. The Dawsons had offered Rachel a permanent arrangement, a place to live in their guest house, a car, a small salary, if she helped them prove that Mark and I were unfit and helped them gain custody of Dylan. They'd always wanted kids, but never could have them. Dylan was perfect. And with Rachel's help, they thought they could swoop in and become his rescuers. Rachel agreed. Happily. She sold out her own nephew for a free house and a second-hand Subaru. Mark was ready to throw her out the second she walked back in the door that night. But I stopped him. Throwing her out would feel good for a minute. But it wouldn't be enough. Rachel wanted to play dirty. The Dawsons wanted to play dirty. Fine. I could play dirtier. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Mark kept tossing and turning next to me, muttering under his breath about burning the house down with the Dawsons and Rachel inside. I was furious too, but I knew rage alone wasn't enough. If we lost our tempers, we could lose Dylan. We had to be smart. The first thing I did the next morning was call my brother-in-law, Eric. He's not a lawyer, but he's got a lot of friends who are. Within an hour, he put me in touch with a family attorney named Laura Watts. Laura was a beast, sharp, quick, and absolutely ruthless when it came to protecting families. I met her that same afternoon. She sat across from me in her tiny office, flipping through the copies of Rachel's notebooks and photos I brought in. She kept shaking her head and muttering, "This is gold. They just handed you their entire case on a silver platter." Laura explained the Dawsons' whole petition was based on Rachel's evidence. Without her testimony, it all fell apart. And better yet, if I could prove Rachel lied and that the Dawsons knew it, we could not only get their petition thrown out, we could also sue them for defamation, emotional distress, and even attempted custody interference, which is a serious crime in Colorado. But I had to be careful. If I just confronted Rachel, she'd deny everything. She might even destroy more evidence. We needed her to bury herself. I spent the next week pretending everything was fine. I smiled at her. I made her breakfast. I even let her borrow my car again. All while working with Laura in the background. We installed a hidden nanny cam in the guest room. Not illegal, it's my house. We set up a fake family meeting with the Dawsons, telling them Mark and I were willing to negotiate. We recorded every word. It didn't take much. Rachel, cocky as hell, bragged on camera about how she couldn't wait to move into the Dawsons' guest house and how Dylan was going to be so much better off without his crazy mom and drunk dad. Mrs. Dawson laughed and said, "Once the judge hears our side, that kid will be ours by Christmas." All on tape. Crystal clear. The day of the court hearing came fast. Rachel dressed up like she was heading to a damn fashion show, tight dress, heavy makeup, big fake smile. The Dawsons showed up in their Sunday best, all sweet and fake like butter wouldn't melt in their mouths. They really thought they had won. They didn't even see it coming. In court, the Dawsons' lawyer went first, laying out their claims. Mrs. Dawson even broke into fake tears, talking about how tragic it was that Dylan had to live in such a toxic home. Then it was our turn. Laura stood up, calm as anything, and started laying out our evidence. First, she showed the judge Rachel's notebooks and photos and pointed out all the ways the incidents were exaggerated or flat-out lies. Then she played the hidden camera footage. The whole courtroom went silent except for Rachel's giggling voice. She's got no clue what's about to happen. Then the recording of the meeting with the Dawsons. Once the judge hears our side, that kid will be ours by Christmas. I watched Rachel's face crumble in real time. Mrs. Dawson turned white as a ghost. Mr. Dawson just stared at the floor. The judge didn't even let their lawyer try to recover. He dismissed their custody petition with prejudice, meaning they couldn't refile. Ever. Then he turned to the Dawsons and Rachel and warned them that we had every right to pursue civil action. And oh, we did. You'd think after getting crushed in court, Rachel and the Dawsons would finally crawl away and leave us alone. You'd think wrong. Rachel didn't come home with us after court. She just disappeared. Left all her stuff behind, clothes, makeup, even her old broken laptop. At first, I thought maybe she skipped town to avoid the fallout. But 2 days later, I found out where she went. Rachel had moved into the Dawsons' guest house anyway. Like nothing had happened. Mark's buddy, who works for the electric company, saw her car parked behind their house when he came to check their meter. Rachel was still taking their dirty money, still living in their little world of lies. It pissed me off. But Laura warned me, let them rot together. Focus on your next move. And she was right. We filed a civil lawsuit against Rachel and the Dawsons for defamation, emotional distress, and attempted custodial interference. We were asking for damages big enough to make their heads spin. That's when things got even uglier. One morning about a month later, I walked out to my car and found the windshield smashed in. A big rock sitting on the hood with the word liar spray-painted in red across it. 2 nights after that, someone egged our house. Dylan cried when he saw it. Then Mark's boss called him into a meeting because someone had emailed fake complaints about him, lies about him stealing from work and threatening coworkers. Luckily, his boss didn't believe it. But it was clear someone was trying to destroy us piece by piece. We knew exactly who. Rachel wasn't just sitting back, she was still fighting, dirty and low. And the Dawsons? They weren't done either. They filed a noise complaint against us with the HOA. Then a neighborhood petition saying we were disruptive and hostile. Only 3 people signed it, the Dawsons and 2 of their drinking buddies. But it made life miserable. Every time I walked Dylan to the bus stop, I could feel eyes on me. Every time Mark mowed the lawn, the Dawsons sat on their porch, glaring. It was like living under siege in our own damn neighborhood. But here's the thing about being attacked nonstop. It hardens you. I wasn't scared anymore. I was done being the victim. I started documenting everything, every weird noise outside at night. Every time a neighbor looked at me funny. Every little thing. We installed a full security system, cameras, motion lights, alarms. Laura helped me get a restraining order against Rachel and the Dawsons. And meanwhile, our lawsuit rolled on. Rachel and the Dawsons thought they could just outlast us. Wear us down. They had no idea that all they were doing was digging their own graves deeper. The court date for the civil lawsuit came faster than we expected. Laura said it was because the judge wanted this circus off his docket. Good. So did we. Rachel showed up looking rough. No makeup, greasy hair tied back in a scrunchie, wearing wrinkled black pants and a sweater that looked 2 sizes too big. The Dawsons didn't look much better. Mrs. Dawson had dark circles under her eyes. Mr. Dawson looked like he hadn't shaved in days. I guess the pressure was getting to them. Good. When we got called in, Laura laid out everything, the fake evidence Rachel had collected. The recordings of their conversations, plotting to take Dylan. The harassment afterward, smashed windshield, egged house, false complaints. The emotional stress it caused Dylan, who still had nightmares about the bad people trying to take him away. I even got up on the stand. My hands were shaking so bad I thought I'd drop the microphone, but I made myself speak. I talked about how much Dylan meant to us, how scared we had been, how violated it felt to be attacked by my own sister and trusted neighbors. I didn't cry until I talked about Dylan asking if he had to go live with the mean lady next door. I saw the judge's face harden when I said that. When it was Rachel's turn to talk, she didn't even try to apologize. She blamed everything on the Dawsons. Said they pressured her. Said she didn't know what she was doing. Mrs. Dawson stood up in the middle of Rachel's sob story and screamed, "You were in on it too, you greedy little bitch." The bailiff had to drag her out of the courtroom. It was a disaster for them. The judge ruled in our favor completely. He awarded us $400,000 in damages, $100,000 each from Mr. and Mrs. Dawson, $200,000 from Rachel. None of them had that kind of money. Not even close. The Dawsons had to sell their house to pay their share. They moved out within 6 weeks, slinking away in the middle of the night like rats. The neighborhood threw a block party the next weekend to celebrate. No kidding. Somebody even made a cake that said "Good riddance." Rachel? She didn't have anything to sell. She had her junker car and whatever money she had left from the Dawsons' promises. Not enough. The court put a lien on her future earnings. Every paycheck she makes for the next 15 years will be docked to pay me back. She's stuck living in a studio apartment above a rundown bar in downtown Greeley. She works 2 dead-end jobs just to keep the lights on. Mark saw her once, months later, serving drinks at a bowling alley. He said she looked like hell, skinny, exhausted, beaten down. Good. I don't feel sorry for her. She tried to destroy my family. She tried to steal my son. She made her choice. And me? I learned something too. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who has your back when it counts. Rachel made her bed. Now she can rot in it. And as for the Dawsons, last I heard, they tried to start over in some tiny town out in Nebraska. Good luck finding a judge there willing to hand over somebody else's kid. They messed with the wrong mother.